Hello everyone, this is Sapphire, your Sapphire Dragon. Welcome to my video or stream, which platform you're on. And grab a blanket, grab your drink of choice. Mine is Christmas tea, and it's very delicious. We're continuing on with the Korean web novel, Turning. We're starting with chapter 8. So let me get that going. There we go. I need to move it though. Let's see. Let's see if I remember how to do this. Ah, why is it cut off? Give me a second. Ah, I forgot how to do it. Oh, oh man. I can figure out like I should have figured this out before I started. Let's see if I can change with my browser. No. Ah, God. I did this last stream and now I can't remember how I did it. I'm getting thrown off because my screen also is changing colors on me. Oh, give me a sec. You know what? We'll just close it and add a new thing. Hi, Shin. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Did that work? No, it didn't work. Oh, there it is. Somewhat. What the hell is that? Weird thing is, I don't have that on my screen. Oh man. This is not opening as a browser. Hello, hello. On, let me. Uh, uh, uh. There we go. There we go. Delete that. Alright. There we go. I'm feeling family function, so I'll be. No worries, no worries. Want to resize this, make this a little bigger. You know what? And I'm gonna add. Sorry, I should have had this all set up, but I knew about it. Well, that didn't do nothing. Alright. So you'll just have to see the top of mine. Let me readjust that. There we go. Anyways, let's get to it. Don't laugh at me. Chapter 8. Nothing has changed from the past so far. Of course, Yuder's roommate and Kana's acceptance had changed from the past, but the faces of those who have been roommate and then were not memorable enough, and the addition of just Kana did not affect the overall flow. So it did not matter. The events happening in Cavalry proceed at Yuder knew them. Also, let me know if I need to turn the music down. I don't know how chill, quiet it is to you guys. To me, it sounds pretty loud. I might turn that down. Oh, it affects me. No way. But yeah, just let me know if the music needs to be turned down. The events happening in the Calvary proceeded as Yuder knew them. There were only minor incidents, such as the blue-haired twins engaging in a verbal fight with the passing knights, or a brief commotion occurring during the training due to someone causing a magical explosion. And soon, our lodgings would change. They would move from the temporary residence in the Imperial Knight Dormitory to a newly completed building dedicated to the Calvary. That place had been Yuder's true home for a long time before he was caught. Although the Emperor had given him several houses after he was promoted, Yuder had never felt attached to them. His real home had always been the small room in the top corner of the building where the cavalry members stayed. However, this time he wouldn't be promoted, so he would never stay in that room. Feeling strangely nostalgic for the place that had not been built yet, Yuder exhaled softly. Oh, thank you for the pet. The emotes are really cute too. I love them. You know, I'm just realizing something. Let's add chat. There we go. The chat's now been added. I do also love those emotes. They're so cute. However, this time Yuder, you surely you're not tired already? Kakune, who had been trained next to him, asked incredulously. He had become a famous figure within the cavalry for his good looks and sociability, but he never left Yuder's side. Aw, that's cute. Kakune is so, puppy dog mode. Moreover, he always initiated conversation with Yuder, regardless of whether Yuder responded. It was both amazing and strange to interact with him. In fact, if one were to mention the most significant change since Yuder's return, it would be his relationship with Gakune. However, Gakune would die in an accident during the mission about a year later. The event that Yuder had once felt indifferent to now occasionally tormented his mind. I intend to prevent the death of those with abilities, including Gakune Thunderbolts. I think that's a miss. It was like Gondabolt. It was something else, not Thunderbolts. But could he do it? He hadn't yet accomplished something significant enough to save someone destined to die. It was unknown whether his efforts would succeed or fail. The outcome of events that had yet not occurred could not be known. I'm fine. Yuder cleared his thoughts and stood up again. That's right. That's more like you. What did it mean to be like himself? Even though he had behaved the same way, no one had yet tried to make eye contact with Yuder in the past. However, the Gakune in front of him looked at him with instant gaze. It was both strange and particular. 1 month passed, and the cavalry members moved to their temporary lodgings to the new building made specifically for them. It was located right next to the Imperial Knights grounds. The building had been designed with their training in mind, but the Knights were furious that the cavalry members, whom they despised like insects, had better accommodations than they did. Take that. Yuder's room remained the same, but the room was much larger than before. When they lay down in their separate beds, their spaces were divided enough to be invisible to each other. And so, as Yuder remembered, the harsh training continued, constantly changing its methods. There were no dropouts, but there were occasional injuries. What was surprising was Kishair, the commander, also participated in the same training. The members were amazed, but Yuder wasn't. It had been the same in the past. For the highest ranking person to move directly to determine the training method is not an ordinary thing to do. Unlike the members who were bonding with each other, Kishair disappeared immediately after training. But just the fact that he was training with them was encouraging for everyone. After spending 3 months like this, Kishair finally called the members of the cavalry again. They stood before the commander with a look that was both the same and different from before. The most significant change was the officially issued black uniforms. When more than 300 of them gathered, all wearing uniforms that looked similar to Kishair's white uniform but much simpler, the atmosphere became unusually tense. First of all, I would like to thank you for following the unstructured training you have received so far. Kishair began with a brief greeting, and then got to the main point. Let's change the music real quick. First of all, I would like to thank you for the past 3 months, I've been testing your limits. The reason was to establish and complete the structure of the cavalry, and now it's over. So based on the training experience you received, you must make a choice. A choice? I should go. A choice? The older of the blue-haired twins asked. If the knights had been there, they would have glared at her for daring to question the Duke. But there were only Kishair and the cavalry members. Kishair nodded with a smile, showing no sign of offense. That's right. You will choose a division within the cavalry. There are 3 choices in total. One is the Shin division. The second is the Sul division. And the third is the Jung division. Cute. The explanation Yuder had heard long ago was repeated. Kishair divided the huge group called cavalry into 3 smaller groups. The Shin division gathered... Why are you playing? Thank you. Kishair divided the huge group called the cavalry into 3 smaller groups. The Shin division gathered those who focused on physical abilities. The Sul division gathered those with magic-like abilities like Yuder, and the Jung division gathered everyone else. I'm not asking you to choose right here, right now. Make up your mind and let me know within a week. Kishair used the entire top floor of the new cavalry dormitory building all by himself. Once everyone answered, the announcement was over. Are your cats distracting you? No. My music was like changing when I didn't want it to change. Yuder, which division will you choose? Obviously the Sul division. On the way back to the dormitory, Gakne spoke to Yuder. What about you? Unable to confirm his decision right away, Yuder instead changed the direction of the conversation. Fortunately, Gakne didn't suspect Yuder's intention and immediately changed direction. I'll go to the Shin division. I thought about the Sul division, but during the training, I felt that this ability might not be the end for me. If I can improve more, I think the Shin division will be the right choice. Yuder looked at Gakne, slightly surprised. It had been only 3 months since he joined the cavalry, and he had a feeling that his abilities would develop further. It was a remarkable rapid progression. It was even more so in a situation where the academic world had not yet announced that the abilities of the awakened individuals could develop depending on their efforts and conditions. Though he had died early and didn't know it, Gakne's talent might have been even more exceptional than Yuder had thought. Where should I go? Let's change the music. Yuder fell in a deep thought. During the 3 months of quietly undergoing training, he had become convinced that in this situation wasn't a dream, and that he could truly change the future if he did well. In the past, he had entered the Soul Division without hesitation, and quickly became the deputy commander representing it. However, doing so wouldn't make a difference from the past. He wanted to avoid repeating an already predetermined outcome. Then the only option left is the Shin Division. The Shin Division. Yuder repeated the name several times in his head. Although his greatest ability was to manipulate all natural attributes, he could also freely handle weapons, so there was a high probability that he wouldn't fall behind in the physical division. Of course, he might not rise to the rank of deputy commander as before, but that was actually what Yuder wanted. And if I go to the Shin Division, I'll see Kishair more often. Yuder thought about Kishair's abilities. His abilities, which nobody knew yet, were specifically suited to the Shin Division. He can freely control power and speed while demonstrating outstanding physical control, excelling in both physical and attribute-based defenses. The most special aspect about them was physical control. In the past, when he had been part of the Soul Division, he barely met Kishair, the commander, as he'd been busy taking care of his subordinates. They did eventually meet regularly, but it wasn't what Yuder had desired. However, things would be different if he joined the Shin Division. In the past, Kishair had often supervised the members of the Shin Division and provided guidance on their training direction. Kishair was an incredible skilled leader, and even if Yuder didn't want to admit it, Kishair was an incredible skilled leader. Even if Yuder didn't want to admit it, the fact became even more apparent when he went back in time. He hadn't joined. I sent you something? Oh, thank you. I will check it out later. He hadn't just formed the cavalry based on a short-term judgment. Yuder often found himself at a loss for words when he saw Kishair's actions overlapping within future events. Some secret. Yeah, it'll be sometimes between streams I will stop and we'll react to something. But why? Why did Kishair pass the position of leader to Yuder at the time? And without any hesitation, as if it had been planned from the beginning. ... Yuder decided he had to go to the Shin Division and find out the reason. Most of the cavalry members made their decision about which division to join within 3 days. Even those who had initially had no idea eventually gained an objective evaluation of their ability after 3 months of training and education. Those who manifested strong physical abilities went to the Shin Division, and those who manifest abilities similar to magic went to the Soul Division. Good lord, I don't understand why my screen keeps changing colors on me. It's so distracting. Those who didn't fit into either category chose the Jung Division. But there were fewer than 10 of them among the 330 total. Yuder? Oh, Yuder, wait a moment, please. Kana, who had called Yuder now, was also the one of those 10 people. So yes, some secrets, some unknown things. We'll find out. Hopefully soon. Yuder, wait a moment. Oh god. Why is my screen changing colors Yuder halted at her call. Joseph was about to escape the tedious reading and writing class. In a world before Yuder died, Kana was one of the few who had adapted better to the current cavalry unit than anyone else, even though she hadn't been part of it. It was no ordinary feat to maintain a somewhat friendly relationship with everyone among the cavalry unit members. Those who were divided in terms of social status, age, gender, and even their places of origin. Despite not having exceptional physical abilities in exchange for special powers, the fact that she never complained during the grueling training was enough to win the affection of many. As if her tense and rigid expression when they first met was a lie, Kana, as a member of the cavalry unit, was praised for being sociable and competent. Kana never forgot her gratitude towards Yuder, who had helped her pass the entrance exam for the cavalry unit. Although they hardly had a chance to meet due to the different training schedules, they always exchanged warm greetings whenever they crossed paths. Oh, that's cute. That's sweet. Thanks to Kana and Gakune writing stories about Yuder's advice to the cavalry unit test as if they were a mysterious experience, Yuder received more friendly attention from his colleagues than before. It was a strange experience for him, who used to be alone among the Awakeners with the same power, as if he was considered to be quiet and unlucky. It's so difficult to catch a glimpse of your face. Kana, who had called Yuder, panted with a smile. What's the matter? Oh, nothing much. I was just wondering if it's true that you haven't chosen your division yet. Yula looked into Kana's blue eyes and nodded silently. It's true. Is there a reason? Is there any reason? The commander was curious about it. At those words, you paused for a moment. The commander? Why was Kishair Laor's name mentioned here? Yuder's face, which tilted its head and asked, had subtle emotions that Kana could hardly perceive. I went to the commander's office earlier with Jody to report our division selections. He asked if I had any idea which division you might choose. ... I actually thought you would have chosen your course on the first day. Do you have any concerns? If you need advice, you can tell me anything. I'm confident in reading information, so if you need help, I'll do it for free. No dabs. No dabbing here. Kana occasionally used her ability to help fellow unit members. Her ability to read information of objects was surprisingly helpful to many people. It was like a fortune telling, helping people find what they had forgotten or making them realize things they didn't know themselves. It was only natural that many people wanted to see it for themselves, even if they have to pay for it. Everything was just under more dab. Why are you saying more dab? No, we're not. No, we're not dabbing. No, I refuse.
Small to just followed.
Oh, thank you for the follow. Say hi in the chat. I hope you enjoy my stream. Also, if my mod will link Discord, you can also join my Discord where you can keep updated to when I'm streaming. There she go. There's my girl. There's my mod. Doing the job. There we go. Also, I'm putting a warning. Again, this is an 18 plus read along. So if you're not 18 plus, please, you might have to step away. I don't know when it's going to get saucy or anything. And all the trigger wordings, because I don't know when there's trigger wordings happening. I don't think it tells me. So just keep in mind. Oh yeah, my music. Okay, that should be fine. Let's see. Natural. Kana occasionally used her ability to help her fellow members. Her ability to read information from objects was surprisingly helpful to many people. I read that. And many people wanted for severance. Fine. No, I'm fine. However, Yuder had no reason to ask for her help. Not yet, anyways. Oh, everything was just as Yuder had expected. Thank you for the head pat. For him, the most important thing right now was not to lose the valuable human resources he had once forgotten and passed by. However, this man's intentions do bother me. Yuder hesitated for a moment before opening his mouth towards Kana. Did he say anything besides that? Anything else? Kana seemed to recall her memory for a bit, then shook her head. I don't remember anything in particular. I see. Maybe he thought I was the one who talked most with you and just asked without any particular meaning. After all, you only have to decide by tomorrow, so don't feel pressured. Although Kana said that, Yuder didn't think so. She didn't know what kind of person Kishair was. Most of the members had the boundless faith and affection for Kishair, who underwent tough training with them and showed a fair attitude. However, that man was not as fair as they thought. Rather, if they knew. Yuder furrowed his brows as he recalled several memories related to that man. Most memories of him weren't very pleasant. But the person I need to save and bring to my side first is still that man. Although he was the man Yuder had killed... Well, we're getting kind of summer. Hold on a minute. Although he was the man that Yuder had killed in past, it was different this time. He was still alive and would not die in the future. Not only that, but Yuder also had to make sure that he remained alive and continued to hold the position of a commander of the cavalry, because Yuder would make it so. Oh, now we're getting back to like Yuder composed himself as he bowed his head slightly to Kana to convey his gratitude, her face briefly showing a hint of wanting to say something more. Oh, speaking of which... Yes. As he looked at her to ask if she had anything more to say, Kana slightly furrowed her brow. The commander thinks that you and I are close, but isn't it a bit too much that you still don't speak comfortably with me? You speak comfortably with Gagane and your roommate, so why do you keep using formal language with me? Caught off guard by her unexpected words, Yuder momentarily froze. It was the first time someone had ever said that to him, from his previous life to the present. Why did he use casual language with some people and formal language with others? Well, since you started using formal language first, I just use it too. Oh, so it's not a big deal then? Of course, it wasn't a big deal. Yuder has always been terrible at building relationships with people, perhaps due to his many years of living alone in the mountains. You're just like, well, you do it, so I did it. Like, how was I supposed to know? I mean, to be fair with Gakane, he's like, why is he using casual language with me? What the fuck is this? Thank you for the head pat. The reason he was able to lead a group for nearly 10 years was that the cavalry was a unique organization that promoted people based solely on the strength or weakness of their abilities. Actually, I was really concerned about it. I was curious about the reason. But if it's simply for that reason, I'll use informal language with you from now on. Is that okay? After all, the members usually use casual language regardless of their status. Do as you please. As Yuder replied slowly, Kana's expression brightened. Great! I shouldn't have asked earlier. It feels refreshing. See you later then. Yuda turned his head, watching Kana's retreating figure disappear. He couldn't have imagined that many cavalry members who had found it difficult to talk to him properly due to their thoughts about him would. Upon hearing Kana's words, he began using informal language with him from the next day. At that time, there was only one thought that filled Yuder's mind. As soon as the day's tasks were over, he would go to where Kishair was staying and deliver the news of the decision that he made. That was all. The training of the cavalry ended around sunset. After finishing dinner, Yuder managed to shake off Gakane, who was clinging to him, asking to play cards together, and headed up to the upper floor. That's silly. That's so cute. Gakune's like, Yuder, come play cards with me, man. Come on, let's go have fun. And Yuder's like, oh my god. Alright. I think this might be. No, let's on. Let's go with this. After climbing the seamlessly endless spiral staircase for several floors, he finally reached the 5th floor. There, a white, antique door appeared adorned with golden lion's head as a door knocker. It was a symbol of the imperial family, the lion that swallowed the light. Yuder stopped for a moment as he saw the door knocker. He felt a strange emotion. Once he could have entered his room through that door. After Kishair handed over the position of the leader of the cavalry to Yuder, he used the original structure of the room without any changes. The only difference was that, unlike Kishair, who had used the entire floor for his personal purpose, befitting of his high status, Yuder had converted the remaining space, except for a small bedroom, into a place that could be used for public purposes. People found it creepy that he would use the space of a former commander, rumored to have been killed by him, without any problem. But for Yuder, this was the only place where he could breathe without having to worry about others' eyes. Sounds like he felt comfortable in a place that belonged to Kishair, like Kishair is a safe place. Yuder suppressed his emotion and reached for the door knocker. However, before he could knock, the door opened from the inside, revealing a tall man. Dot, dot, dot. Apparently, about to go somewhere, Kishair dressed in a simple clothes with a long coat over them, momentarily widening his eyes before his expression returned to his usual state. Perhaps it was because they had countered an unexpected situation, but Yuder felt his heart beating a little faster. Even though he thought he had momentarily prepared himself, even though he thought he had mentally prepared himself for the visit. Since his return, this was the first time he properly faced Kishair, and it was for the first time they had met alone. During the cavalry test, Kishair had used the transformation spell on his face, allowing Yuder to maintain an objective emotional state. Apart from that, there had been no reason to worry about him, as they had barely glimpsed each other occasionally among the 300 cavalry members. But now, it was different. Would this be the feeling of facing a monster waiting for him in a dead-end alley with no place or reason to turn his gaze? Yuder looked up at Kishair and took a thin, deep breath. Finally, his racing heart calmed down a bit. Despite knowing that the other party wouldn't have had any thoughts about it, the constant intrusion of uncomfortable emotions and unnecessary feelings must have been due to the strong memories of the past. Kishair, in reality, Yuder had known him for less than 2 years. However, his existence had left an indelible and powerful mark on Yuder's life, whether it had been for a short or a long time. I think we're gonna go into kind of a sad, because he seems to be recalling the past. Chapter 9. Kishair Or had taught Yuder many things: how to stand in the position of the cavalry commander, how to endure in a court filled with hyenas, and even how to live as an omega with an empowered person after awakening. There had been many times when he had resented him for unilaterally passing on too much of a burden to him, but his thoughts changed slightly when it was about time for him to die. Kishair had definitely chosen Yuder as a commander among the more than 300 members with some kind of will in mind. However, it was unclear what he had hoped for in the making of that choice. Did he really not know that Yuder would become the lion to take his life when he handed over the position of the cavalry commander? Could he, who was well aware of the imperial and noble families' circumstances, have not known that such an order would come down? With Kishair's abilities, he could have certainly escaped death by running away beforehand, or, on the contrary, killed Yuder, but he didn't. Yuder discovered the fact too late to ask him why he had acted that way. The dead couldn't speak. However, now he might be able to understand his intentions. Hi, Pixel! You've only missed a few chapters. However, now he might be able to understand his intentions without receiving the burdens he offered. He had burdens he offered. Oh, God, I can't read. To do that, he had to avoid killing him as before. Okay, we need it. Right. Okay, no problem. I'm wondering when will the top cavalry candidate finally arrive. Hold on, let me read that again. I'm wondering when will the top cavalry candidate finally arrive. It's about time you showed up. Did you finally make your decision? Kishair spoke to him casually with a smile. His tone was far too relaxed for an imperial noble to address a commoner. But Yuder was not surprised. He already knew his personality. Oh, okay. If you need to talk, just shoot me a message and I'll get back to you. Because sometimes venting might help, but it's totally up to you. I hope everything goes well. We're here for you. Kishair spoke with, yes. But if you were about to leave, I'll come back another time. No, it's fine. I didn't have any plans. I was just about to go out for a while and come back. Kishair stepped back a few paces and with a smile. Come in. Yuder had an unusual expression of stepping into a place as a guest, where he had once used it for a much longer time. The space, hastily constructed but considered it was for imperial family rare, showed the efforts of the artisans and to match its dignity. The high domed ceiling was above the floor, covered with the highest grade carpet from the South Mountains without any gaps. The central furnace, fueled by magic stones from the north, looked more beautiful, like a beautiful sculpture than a furnace. No, that's serious. She has a lot of things ahead. I had surgery. Birthday feeling. Oh my! I'm sorry you had a surgery. But hey, my birthday's coming up in like a week, so I get that. But you take it easy, man. Surgery sucks. I need to turn the music down in my ear. There we go. So slightly too loud. Let's see. The majestic, the majestic bookshelf that filled an entire wall, and the black marble desk beneath it exuded an awe-inspiring presence that one would hardly dare to touch. Yeah, excuse me. Yes, I need to figure out what I'm gonna do. I need to still buy the alcohol. I'm planning to do that maybe on the day of my birthday, since I'll be off. I'm making sure my don't need to sneeze. I think I'm good. What about the beauty? What about the beauty of the dozen or so paintings depicting ancient myths handed down in the Empire? Ugh. The white angular stone walls adorned with paintings shone brilliantly in 5 colors even without light. Visitors who witnessed the spectacle were naturally drawn into a sense of awe, as if they were standing before a temple. Thank you, as if they were standing before a temple altar. Of course, Yuder, who was all too familiar with the scenery, merely glanced around once without feeling any surprise. Instead, his gaze was drawn to the upper part of the stone furnace that emitted red and blue flames. A transparent gemstone, carved to appear as if it was floating in air, served as a sword stand, and on it rested a single massive sword, the divine sword or. At first glance, it was clear that this was not a sword meant for ordinary people to use. Despite being stored within a scabbard that contains all manner of sacred power, magic, and technique of different races, the energy it emitted was extraordinary. The sword, which merely observing seemed to sharpen one's senses with its keen aura, was none other than the divine sword Or, said to have been bestowed upon the first emperor who founded the Or Empire by the messenger of God. Those without imperial blood could not hold the sword. However, being able to hold it did not mean they could wield it. The divine sword was famous for being extremely particular about its user's abilities and qualities. Throughout the 1,000-year history of the empire, there had been fewer than 10 people who were able to wield the sword, and Kishair Or was the only person of his time chosen by the divine sword Or. After his death, no one else appeared who could wield the sword even until the day Yuder died. The proud divine sword, which even Yuder, who boasted unparalleled abilities, couldn't touch. Since no one but the chosen one could move the sword, it remained forever in the Peleta's duchy's estate, where Kishair Or had last resided. Due to its demanding nature, even the nobility rarely knew that the divine sword looked like. It was only natural, as Kishair had not frequently carried or used the sword even after being revealed as a chosen one. Why did the divine sword chose Kishair if it wouldn't be properly used by its chosen master? If the sword knew that it would part so quickly with its owner, would it have made the same choice? Occasionally, he wondered about this, but it was unknowable as Kishair's intentions. Is the sword fascinating? Kishair spoke to Yuder, who was staring solely at this divine sword. Normally, people are first captivated by other parts of this room and don't pay much attention to it. Indeed, it wasn't the reaction expected of an ordinary commoner. Yuder murmured inwardly. Although the sword was a legendary divine sword, it appeared to be nothing more than an ordinary ceremonial sword for high-ranking individuals. Sometimes, I hear the word in my head and it just does not compute to my lips. I know how to say it, but it's just like my brain goes bleh. Uh, It didn't look like a sword that could be used for in actual combat. And with the surroundings so grand and extravagant, it was reasonable that people didn't focus on sword first. But for me, that sword always bothered me the most. You'd recalled a memory from long ago, not knowing that the appearance and abilities of the divine sword and the events tied to it in the future. It was a natural for his gaze to be drawn to it. However, before he traveled back in time, when there was just a young member of the cavalry, Yuda had first looked at the sword. It was possible because his senses, which could feel mana, were so keen that they would penetrate the protective barrier of the scabbard that hid the sword's aura. Hi, Shiny Chew, how are you doing? Back then, Kishair had shown great interest in Yuda for the first time. Only then did Yuda finally turn his gaze away from the divine sword ore and look towards Kishair, with a soft, enigmatic smile playing at the corners of his lips. Kishair watched Yuda intently. So far, the gaze on Yuda, who had slightly above average, was one more of curiosity. I just looked at the sword because it gave off an unusual vibe. Unusual? In what way? At this point, Kishair hadn't yet publicly announced that he was the owner of the divine sword. That revelation would come later, when he was assigned as a top secret mission to collect the redstone. So for now, it was crucial to feign ignorance while piquing Kishair's interest. Just looking at it, I feel an energy as if it's targeting me. The sword sheath seems to be blocking it, but it can't completely hide it. It wasn't a lie. In fact, at that moment, he was feeling the sharp energy flowing from the sword throughout his body. Somehow, the energy feels even stronger than what I felt before. Am I imagining things? In the past, he had felt unusual energy from the sword, but it was never enough to make his entire body feel sore. Yuder used to possess extraordinary abilities, powerful enough to make people believe that he had no equal in the world. Could the reversal of time have heightened his senses beyond their original level? It was an unknown matter. Upon hearing Yuder's words, Kishair's gaze shifted towards the sword. A moment later, the energy that had been directed at Yuder disappeared as if... God, my tongue. Upon hearing Yuder's word, Kishair's gaze shifted to the sword. A moment later, the energy that had been directed at Yuder disappeared as if it were a lie. Can you feel the energy diminishing? Seeing Yuder's shoulders stiffen, Kishair spoke with an amused expression. It seems you're not lying. I've never seen a sword with such power before. Really? Haven't you heard of something similar? For a moment, Yuder worried that Kishair had noticed something. Even though he knew it was unlikely, he was briefly tense. Everyone knows the story of the founding emperor and his divine sword ore. Ah. His word had been unnecessary. Yuder exhaled softly and nodded. So, are you saying that the sword is the divine sword? Oh, thank you for the blanket, Pixel. Alright, I hope you feel better. Until next time. So, are you saying the sword is the divine sword? Yes. To be exact, I'm the 12th owner. It's a fussy thing, not knowing anyone but the chosen one to wield it. Yuder already knew the story. Nevertheless, he feigned surprise as if hearing it for the first time. Kishair did not doubt his reaction and continued talking. I've seen many awaken through the power of the red stone, but you're the first to sense this energy so keenly. Was it like this since your awakening? Or did you feel more sensitive to my or other energies than others during your daily life? It's been like this since my awakening. I see. Kishair nodded, rubbing the area below his lips. I should have mentioned this earlier, but I was the one. Oh, this is Kishair. I should have mentioned this earlier, but I was the one of the examiners when you first took the cavalry test as number 423. Did you know that? You were the one on the far right. Yes, you have a rare talent for distinguishing things so precisely. You truly are sensitive to energy. The main reason Yuder recognized Kishair was not his sensitivity to energy, but because he had seen Kishair in that form before. However, Yuder decided not to reveal the truth. Back then, I thought your talent was exceptionally suited for both the Shin and Soul division. But if I had to choose, I thought you would be more suited to Soul. Was I wrong? Oh, he's so wrong. Because Yuder's like, psych! I ain't going back down that path. Alright, come on, internet. Okay, there we go. Chapter 11. Oh, we might go through a bunch of stuff before we have to switch over. Was I wrong? In the past, he had said something similar to, yet different to Yuder. He had come to know this place earlier than anyone else and simply declared his intention to join the Soul Division. Your talent leans heavily towards the Jung Division. It's a good thing to recognize the direction of your own talents before anyone else. How strange it was to hear different words in the same places from the same person. Indeed, the future he had already known was changing due to his choice. Actually, I came to here to tell you the decision that I've decided to choose the Shin Division instead. At Yuder's words, Kishair tilted his head as if trying to gauge his sincerity. Are you serious? Yes. What's your reason for choosing the Shin Division? I thought that I want to move more towards the Shin Division rather than Soul Division while undergoing training. Even if your talent would blossom much faster and greater if you were to go the way of the Soul Division? It seemed like a question that could read the future. However, Yuder didn't panic at this time and calmly answered as if he prepared in advance. Isn't it possible that the opposite result could happen as well? That's true. A smile appeared in Kishair's red eyes. Usually when people are called like this, they would hesitate and reconsider it at least once, thinking they've come to a conclusion after careful thought. But it seems your opinion won't change, so it doesn't matter. Fine. I'll process your application to the Shin Division. It was such a clean and straightforward response that it almost felt surreal. Yuder somehow felt a sense of emptiness. He vividly remembered Kishair had made him the deputy commander responsible for the entire Soul Division for no apparent reason, almost simultaneously as he had entered the division. Because of that, he had thought he would be suspicious and not accept it if he chose the Shin Division. However, there was no such indication in Kishair's attitude at this time. Normally, you would have to sign the documents yourself, but that'll be after some other matters are settled. Kishair didn't say what those matters were. However, Yuder knew what they were. The time to receive a family name is approaching. He had received a family name not long after joining the cavalry in the past. It was unprecedented for hundreds of new family names to be created as bestowed within a few months. Most of them were created without sincerity, taking names from the birthplace and from the scriptures, but they still existed in insurmountable gap in status between those who had a family name and those who didn't. Looking back now, it was remarkable that the emperor had allowed such a thing. The opposition from the nobles must have been fierce. How had he handled it? But yeah, it's like getting 330, well, almost 330, because Gakane is a noble, so he has a family name, and I'm sure there's more people who have family name in the cavalry. But that's close to probably 300, give or take, of commoners who all of a sudden had a family name, who are kind of almost on equal footing with nobles. Not quite, but not to the point where nobles can boss them around all the time and they have to like listen. Let's see. You didn't have many memories of the previous emperor, who had passed away just before he became the commander of the cavalry, and he was now the current emperor. All he could remember was that the previous emperor had been the half-brother of Kishair, the only blood brother, that for several years before his death, he had been so ill that he hadn't even shown his face properly in front of his subjects, and that the crown prince, who had inherited the throne after his death, had been adopted rather than a biological son. Having lived in the mountains, he didn't even know the face of the lord governing the village he lived in, let alone the emperor's. The only time he had seen the emperor's face was during the one and only initiation ceremony in the cavalry. Is there something more you want to say? While Yuder was thinking, Kishair seemed to have sensed he had more to say and asked him. Yuder stared at him for a moment and impulsively opened his mouth. Your Highness, why, call me Commander. He interrupted abruptly. His relaxed red eyes shone with mischief. Oh, he's already flirting. According to Or's law, the status does not take precedence over position. Of course, there are many who ignore this. Oh, this is Kishair. According to Or's law, status does not take precedence over position. Of course, there are many who ignore this. But as long as I'm here, the title of commander is enough. Ah, yes. Commander, may I ask why you created this place? This place? Do you mean this building, or the cavalry? He asked like that even though he knew exactly what Yuder was asking. Yuder had always disliked that sly aspect of him. Feeling an odd sense of deja vu, Yuder opened his mouth. Of course the latter. You're the first person to ask me that directly. Even that emperor didn't ask me about the reason. There was no hint to his expression that he found Yuder's question innocuous or presumptuous. The reason I created the cavalry, it's simple. Power must flow in the right direction. If you try to forcefully block and eliminate it, you will inevitably pay the price for disrupting harmony. As for someone with an ability like you all, I thought I needed to create a path for this power before it became... Sorry. As someone with an ability like you all, I thought I needed to create a path for this power before it could harm the Empire. And since I was the only awakener among the Imperial family, I thought it was the most suitable. That's all there is to it. It was a textbook answer that made it difficult to object. Yuder hesitated for a moment before deciding to ask one more question. Then, will you be the only one leading the cavalry in the future? Why do you say that? Are you eyeing the position? Of course not. If anyone else had heard, they would have rebuked him for his response, telling him to answer properly, please. As Yuder frowned and answered, Kishair laughed even louder than before. It was an incredible, joyful laugh. Well, for now, that's the case. But once the divisions are established, I plan to select a deputy commander to assist me. With your abilities, you might be able to take that position. I would be unqualified. Yuder answered immediately without a second thought. I'm not sociable and I haven't built close relationships with my fellow members. Oh? I thought highly of you, but it seems you have softer side than I expected. Kishair shook his head. Social ability and friendship are undoubtedly good qualities, but if I were to choose someone solely based on those traits, I might as well have brought in non-awakeners. You must remember that the power you possess was not something you were born with. You may be used to your previous life. And feel inferior in front of a higher-ranking Imperial Knights or nobles, but in a few years, the situation will likely reverse. ... Even if you don't understand the meaning of my words. No, I understood. Yuder couldn't immediately respond because Kishair's seemingly light-hearted answer was eerily accurate about the future. He was right. Just as he said, the cavalry members might feel inferior in front of the high-ranking Imperial Knights or nobles now, but in a few years, the situation changed. Only the cavalry could resolve the ever-growing catastrophes, and they broke free from the previous system, experienced drastic increases in social status, promotions, and power. No longer could traditional powerhouses like the Imperial Knights or the Pearl Tower mages casually deal with cavalry and awakeners. The only ones who could suppress them were those with even greater powers. Take, for instance, the commander, Yuder. Yuder would challenge any insubordinate member to a one-on-one practice duel. He would beat them down in front of everyone, ensuring they wouldn't dare act rebellious again. There were many complaints that it was like dealing with animals instead of humans, but it was the easiest solution, so it couldn't be helped. It's like someone's like, well, fuck your bullshit. He's like, alright, let's duel it out. You beat me? Well, listen, if you can't, get in line. Not bad, But at that moment, those events were still in the past. Yuder thought Kishair would have a different approach to dealing with the members, but perhaps, if you have no more questions, you may leave. Ah, yes. This room is always open, so if you have more questions, feel free to come by any time. If I'm not here, leave a message with my adjutant. Hearing Kishair's words, Yuder thought to himself. Yuder had been in this room a few times before when Kishair was the commander, but there was one difference today, the presence of the adjutant. Kishair's famous adjutant, Nathan Zuckerman, who had been with him since he was a prince and not the Duke of Paletta, was absent. Had Nathan been there when Yuder had visited in the past? As Yuder tried to recall his vague memories, Kishair seemed to have guessed something and turned his head, saying, Ah. Come to think of it, you might not know who my adjutant is. He is currently handling members in Paletta Castle in my stead. Once he wraps it up, he'll be coming over. He's not an awakener, but he's quite skilled with the sword. Quite skilled? Yuder nearly let out a sarcastic laugh, but held it back. Nathan Zuckerman was a sword master. He hadn't been officially recognized, but Yuder had heard directly in the past and was sure of it. Yuder had even sparred with him. Kishair's casual comment about Nathan being quite skilled with a sword made Yuder think of him as sly as a snake. Understood. After replying, Yuder left Kishair's quarters, finally free from the subtle yet nerve-wracking aura of the divine sword he sensed behind him. He let out a long breath. one thing was certain. Kishair hadn't created the cavalry with an intention of handing them over to someone else from the beginning. In just 2 years since the Awakeners had appeared, he had an incredible understanding of their tenacities and the influence they would have on the future. If someone as cunning as him had been in the cavalry, Yuder wouldn't have failed as miserably as he had in the past, because Kishair had been noble lineage and connections from birth. Why would someone like him suddenly step down from the position as commander and return to his hometown? That was the question that Yuder would have to investigate. All right. So yeah, the little flirting Kishair seems to be doing, or little toy. I think he's really curious about Yuder. Like he's, kind of like, oh, he's a cat who is kind of standoffish. Let me see if I can get him to play. Like, personality-wise, I think Yuder would fit a cat so well. Like a little black cat that's standoffish, seems unapproachable, but enjoys pets once he warms up to you, and then likes to sit in your lap and purr, but it has to be on his time. Alright. Chapter 12. Let's change this. It's not... At last, all the members of the cavalry had been assigned their divisions. The commander, Kishair, announced a 1-month grace period, during which the members could actually live their lives and make any necessary adjustments. He also proclaimed that the treatment of the cavalry members would be expanded to a level equivalent to the Imperial Knights. Furthermore, those without last names would soon be granted one, a declaration that surprised everyone. The cavalry members now belonged directly to the Imperial Palace, and they received a monthly salary equivalent to that third-class official. They were granted the right to reside anywhere in the Or Empire and could use any state-operated facility without having to pay a fee. If they were accused of committing a crime, the punishment was decided upon and administered by the cavalry commander and the emperor, rather than the provincial lord. In essence, this granted them the same absolute immunity that the Imperial Knights possessed. Consequently, their accommodations also changed. Those who had housed in the capital could now commute from their homes instead of staying in the barracks. Members who chose to remain in the barracks each received a room of their own. Man, that's like 330 rooms, give or take. Probably less. Well, probably more, because if they make more, they would need more room. Well, there was a restriction that they could only live in the barracks for up to 5 years, excluding the commander. This was more than enough for those who did not yet have sufficient wealth to buy a house in the capital. Oh, so it's like they're there for 5 years, they better save up some money and then buy themselves a house in the capital. Except the commander. The commander could be there all the time, because he already has the house. It's incredible. We're really being treated like Imperial Knights. Of course, they each get a servant when they get assigned a room, but we don't need that much, one member said. That's right. We're all capable of dressing ourselves, added another. Laughter erupted among the cavalry members who had gathered for a meal after a shocking morning announcement. Everyone's face was bright, filled with hope. Among those beaming faces, Yuder suddenly dipped his bread and stewed and chewed. He's like, whatever, I'm just gonna eat my food. That's all I care about. Yuder, did you hear? We'll also get the same 30 days of vacation as Imperial Knights. If our children are also Awakeners, We can pass on this treatment to them too. Man, 30 days of vacation. Well, I wonder if that's just per year. But still, 30 days. I would need to know if that's per year or per month. Because, damn, if it's per month, well, maybe not. Okay, it's not to be per month. So I guess it's per year. But still, 30 days? God damn, that's like if you want to take a time, month, few months off, you're golden. Or a tire month, yeah. Uh, when we shared this when we shared this news with our hometown, everyone will be delighted. The days of being looked down upon for not having any land to inherit will finally be over, Gakne continued. Yes. Oh, don't you have to inform your family in your hometown as well? I'm alone. At Yuder's words, Gakne's eyes widened, and he quickly looked apologetic, like a dog with drooping ears. He's totally a dog. I see. I'm sorry. I just assumed you had family back home because of what Kana said when she read your bracelet. My bracelet? Ah. You recall that the day he went to register for the cavalry examination, he had met Kana for the first time that day. In order to test her abilities, he had handed her the bracelet from his pocket tree. The bracelet, made from small stones carved and strung together with thread, was the only keepsake he had from his grandfather. It was the single gift his grandfather had made for his young grandson, who would be left alone just before he passed away. Although the bracelet was now too old and fragile to wear, fearing it might break, Yuder had kept it in his pocket as he had yet not fully settled into the capital. After becoming the commander, Yuder had barely paid any attention to the bracelet, and when he returned to find it in his pocket, he felt a strange sense of unfamiliarity. There we go. It's okay. Yuder briefly replied to Gakne and thought of the old captain in his hometown mountains. He hadn't properly tidied up the house before leaving in case he didn't pass the cavalry test, so he figured he should visit and take care of it if he got a vacation. Yuder! Yuder, how about coming to my house during vacation? I told my parents and siblings about you in a letter, and they were all very curious. There's plenty of delicious food and fun activities and so. We'll treat you well, so come and see. What about us, Gakne? A few other members who were dining nearby asked in a half-joking tone. Are we not friends? Of course you are, but I want to take Yuder first, so you guys can come next time. Don't you need to visit your home first? Gakne totally has the hots for Yuder. He has a thing for you. He's acting as if I already taken a vacation. Although Gakne's shameless attitude was slightly off-putting, Yuder didn't say anything. The handsome man with the bright red hair like a rose never tried to leave Yuder's side. He's such a puppy. Of course he's not going to leave. Yuder didn't know what Gakne liked so much about him, but even after they were assigned individual quarters, Gakne visited him every day, urging him to hang out. Yuder had to chase him away several times. He's like, hey Yuder, come on, let's go play. Yuder, hello, come play. And Yuder, who's like cat, just like smacks him like, go away, leave me alone. No, I'll do it when I want to. Thanks to Gakne's persistence, the attitude of the other members who had treated Yuder harshly began to change. Yuder was extremely surprised by the fact he was accepted among the members to this extent, solely due to the presence of Kana and Gakne. Yuder, you'll get a last name too. I'm envious that you'll receive a last name from His Majesty the Emperor. I'd like to get one too. Don't say that anywhere else. As Yuder frowned and grumbled, Kakane hurriedly raised his hand. I don't mean I envy commoners or anything like that. It's just an amazing opportunity. There were only a few in the Empire's history who received titles and names bestowed by His Majesty the Emperor. I'm just envious of the chance to be recorded there. The last names and names bestowed by the Emperor were very special gifts given only to those who had made significant contributions. However, for Yuder, who had achieved the incredible record of receiving both, they didn't hold much meaning. Even if I receive them, it won't be that great. You sometimes talk as if you know everything. Receiving a last name changes your status completely. Of course it's a good thing, as commoners are freed from the obligations of paying taxes and labor. Man, imagine not having to pay for taxes and technically don't have to work. Would you have a job? It's not like, yo, you have to, work the commoner job, I guess, He was right. But there could be anything that was unconditional good in this world. Those who had titles were given new duties and responsibilities unique to them. The cavalry members would receive many things because of their power would have to fight another war from now on. Besides, the last name will be given is hardly a last name at all. Ignoring Gakane, who seemingly ready to recite 100 good things that would come from receiving a last name, Yuder finished his meal and got up from his seat. I'm leaving first. Yuder, let's go together! Gakane put down his unfinished stew and got up. Wouldn't it be better to finish your meal first? We're going to the swordsmanship training grounds anyway. If I eat too much, I'll just feel like throwing up. Gakane lowered his head and playfully pretended to vomit. I can't stand when people do that. Let's change for that. The Soul Division, a group mainly composed of individuals capable of using magic-like powers. Why is this not playing? Oh. Helps if I actually select that. The Soul Division, a group mainly composed of individuals capable of using magic-like powers, spent most of their trainings to enhance their individual attributes and to develop more accurate and powerful abilities. As a result, there was rarely a need for them to gather and train together, but the Shin and Soul Division often had many members with similar abilities. Most of them belonged to the category of physical enhancement or excelled in using various weapons. They had to learn various techniques for using different weapons and how to protect others while coordinating their breathing. Among all the weapon techniques, it was the sword that Kishair demanded of the Shin and Soul Division to put most effort into learning. You thought it could be guessed at the intention behind this. Swordsmen had traditionally been treated as superior to those who wielded their weapons, while sword masters had made a name for themselves in history were relatively common. Bowsmasters or lance masters were not. Swordsmanship had traditionally been the martial arts of nobles, and the most common available weapon was the sword. The ease of access to the sword resulted in a large number of people learning and admiring it, proportionally increasing the chances of swordmasters emerging. It seems not to be singing music. Let's get more a little chill. When people thought of swordmasters, they would envision a high-ranking general or a knight commander responsible for the country's military power. The most noble feature of a sword master was the ability to freely use aura, which they would fuse into their swords and emitted. Many of the cavalry members who entered the Shin and Soul divisions were capable of this feat without any effort. Although the swordsmanship and proficiency were lower than that of a true swordmaster, the intensity and output of the aura they could produce were not inferior. Kishair intended to raise the status of the cavalry and gain strength through this ability. Still, I wonder what the commander was. I wonder what the commander was thinking when he designated the new training ground as the Imperial Knights Training Ground Number 1. I only heard high-ranking officials above deputy could use that place. I'm not sure if that's him or Gakane speaking. That could be him. Well, I don't know. As the cavalry members entered the grounds used by the Imperial Knights, the atmosphere around them became tense. Oh, no, we gotta change the music. Maybe that's two. We'll go for this for now. I might be intense. It meant that people around them were not pleased with. No, that sounds too upbeat. Go on. We'll do it. Even in the past, for the past few months, the cavalry members had trained at the rookie training ground set up in a corner of the premises. Even then, the passing Imperial Knights had openly displayed their discomfort. Now, they had been notified that they would be using Training Grounds Number 1, which was like the Knight's pride. It was a wonder how Kishair had managed to push for this. Maybe he used an imperial order decided by the Emperor himself. Yuder deliberately did not exert himself fully at the basic training of the past few months. Even without giving his all, his abilities were beyond that level of an ordinary member. Instead, he frequently practiced becoming familiar with the flow of energy around his body based on what past memories and drawing onto his body momentarily. Traditionally, mages and knights who use conventional mana would acclimate the energy flowing in nature with their bodies for a long time and can only use the amount they had stored. However, those who awakened to the new mana were different. Though the power of the red stone, they were able to freely use the unfamiliar energy that filled the world without unnecessary storing in their bodies, simply through skill and practice. This meant that it was more important who could draw and use a greater amount of energy stably in an instant, and how familiar one was with using and applying their own abilities. However, adaptation and practice were necessary for this as well. Therefore, it was helpful to spend a few hours every day meditating to become accustomed to the energy. It would be about 3 years from now before this fact was revealed, but it wouldn't hurt them to start early. Gakane seemed to mistake Yuder, who meditated every morning, for a devout follower of the sun god, but Yuder found it too bothersome to correct him, and simply let him remain under that impression. Yuder he's like, I'm not even gonna bother correcting him. Like, That's too much energy to say no. You're fucking wrong. Oh, I got a text. Give me a second. The Imperial Knights Training Grounds Number 1 stood proudly in the very center of a vast area. Right next to the training grounds was the Knights Court institution, the Hall of Forest Glory, built to overlook the site. Most of the administrative tasks, mission assignments, important events, and various tasks performed by the Knights of deputy level or higher took place there. In other words, it was the heart of the military force that protected the capital and moved the entire empire. It was the utter disgrace for the Imperial Knights that these individuals, who had been mere insects just a few months ago, were now setting foot in such a place. Look over there. A few more of them coming. A sharp voice rang out towards Gakane and Yuder as they entered the training grounds. A group of knights, not bothering to hide the anger, sneered at the caliber members. Look at those arms without using a single muscle showing. What about those hands without a hint of calluses? What on earth can we accomplish with them? Can they even read? I can't believe such a disgraceful event is happening in a 1,000-year history of Imperial Knights. I wonder what His Majesty and the Commander are thinking. ... Yuda glanced at them once and ignored them. Gakune's face turned slightly red, but he didn't show any other reaction. Welcome, Gakune. They met the newcomer and the other members already in the training ground. Their expressions were not good either, having heard the knight's mockery earlier. A woman with a slightly bound long hair stepped forward and greeted Gakune. Ever, you got here already? Once she receives her last name, she will become Everbeck. Yuder had known her for some time. She was one of the first awakened individuals who gained fame in the empire after the Red Stone fell 2 years ago. Previously an ordinary country girl, her story garnered much attention. A slender woman who single-handedly killed a horde of monsters that had come down from the mountains in search of food. There was no more shocking news in the world. Her story spread like wildfire, fueled by eyewitnesses' account. Nearly all the members who had passed the cavalry test and learned her true identity knew her story. Her abilities to strengthen her muscles and skin, which allowed her to tear apart even formidable monsters beforehand without the use of a weapon. Until Yuder's death, she had carried out several important missions in the cavalry. One should not underestimate her simply because she appeared ordinary. Though there were other individuals with greater strength or defensive power, hardly anyone could use their power as effectively as she could. According to Yuder's memory, Ever had also been appointed as deputy commander of the Shin Division. It's quite nosy for our first time training session since the division. Well, there's nothing we can do about it. Have they been here this whole time? Yes, and they've been at it non-stop. It was as if they had it up. It was as if they had been doing it since dawn. Well, I suppose busy nobles wouldn't really do that. Ever since Ever spoke with a cool expression, a faint smile appeared among the Shin Division members. I almost thought they wouldn't let us in after all. I almost thought they wouldn't let us in after all. Oh, I almost thought they wouldn't let us in at all. The small boy standing next to Ever waved his hand with a brightened face and grumbled. He was one of the famous early awakeners, just as famous as ever, a common boy of 10 years old, Jimmy Ocker, who had split a rock with a single branch. We learned about that in the first episode, or second chapter, episode 9. Of course, before receiving his last name, he was just Jimmy. 2 years had passed since the red stone fell, and now 12-year-old Jimmy had left his parents' side and confidently passed the cavalry test. It was said that his parents, although commoners, owned a decent store and could afford to support the son without hesitation. Among the 330 cavalry members, he was the youngest to pass, and everyone believed he had abilities similar to the legendary swordmaster. His ability to imbue his weapons with energy and use it like the aura of a swordmaster was more than enough to make enemies tremble in fear. I don't understand why I can't, because usually the children who join the Imperial Knights as the squires start at 10 years old, and I'm already 12. As Jimmy pointed out, most of the prestigious knights begin their lives as squires as senior knights around at the age of 10. Since they usually become squires to knights with connection to the parents, they didn't have to struggle and mostly learned from experience by observing their mentors and occasionally receiving a private lessons in swordsmanship. When they grew older, they officially joined the Knights Order and were commissioned. It was no exaggeration to say that it was a world exclusive to them. One of those of lower status couldn't enter. Show your true strengths during the training layer. That's all you need to do. Oh, show your true strengths later. Show your true strengths during training later. That's all you need to do. As Guggy ruffled Jimmy's hair and offered advice, the Shin Division member nodded. There are many commoners among the Shin Division members, more than Seoul. If they were intimidated by the Imperial Knights' haughtiness, if they were intimidated by the Imperial Knights' highness, but they were trying their best to overcome it. Yes, it is still a difficult task for now. In a few years, this issue will be resolved, but not yet. To break free from the deeply rooted social class consciousness and gain confidence, time and experience were needed, and Kishair Laora was supposed to make that happen. Yuder looked at their faces and nodded. It was in. I wonder what all the noise was about. I wonder what all these noises were about. Turns out it's the newbies. A young knight with a frown on his face appeared along with several junior knights. On the knight's order's uniform he wore, there were 3 additional lily patterns engraved above the golden eagle emblem on his chest, unlike the other knights. What does the lily mean? Oh, what does the lily mean? As Jimmy asked with a bewildered expression, Gakne spoke without taking his eyes off the knight. The golden eagle is the symbol of the Imperial Knights, and the lily is the symbol of nobility. If there are 5 lilies on the uniform, it means the knight commander, 4 means the deputy commander, and 3 means the rank just below. So he's a very high-ranking person. Yeah, well, most people don't even get a single lily before they retire. Gugny had once mentioned that he had aimed to join a famous knight order and learn the swordsmanship during his childhood. However, he had to give it up because his family, despite its prestigious name, didn't have the power to afford the necessary funds to become a knight. The reason that there were no commoners in famous knights' orders was that the shiny uniforms, armor, swords, and horses were not all provided by the higher-ups. The knights had spent a considerable amount of money to maintain their dignity, especially those of the Imperial Knight, where all members were nobles. The blue uniforms they wore were made of the highest quality fabric, and their swords were as renowned as the family heirlooms of their respective houses. The situation was entirely different from the cavalry, where almost none of them owned a personal sword, except for the recently issued black uniforms. Who told you that you were allowed in here? The knight with the three lily badges approaches the cavalry member. As most of them could confidently stand up against such an arrogant nobleman, panic spread among them. Even the usually confident Gokne's face showed a little hint of worry for a moment. We have gathered here under the command for our we have gathered here under the command of our commander for training. The commander? Are you talking about the Duke of Paletta? Yes. Even though he knew the answer, he asked anyway. His arrogant expression said it all. I've seen him many times since we were young. He's always a man of indulgence. I never thought he was stooped so low to gather the likes of you and act like a commander. It must be his greatest whim yet. His knights in Paletta must be weeping. ... As the knights mocked their relationship with Kishair, anger spread across the faces of the cavalry members. Someone clenched their fist, and the knights behind the one with the three lilies placed their hands on their swords with scowling faces, appearing ready to draw the weapons at any moment. Yet only Yuder remained calm, expressionless face amidst the tense atmosphere. Excuse me, but who are you? Oh, that's Yuder. Sorry. Excuse me, but who are you? Yuder's like, I don't care who the fuck you are. Who are you? Yuder generally didn't know who the man was. It wasn't just because Yuder had a few interactions with the Imperial Knights in the past due to his commoner background. He thought he had a good grasp of the faces of the nobles he had met since becoming captain, but there were only a few reasons he could think of for not recognizing the men in front of him. 1. The man had died or retired before Yuder became captain. 2. The man had returned to his own territory. Neither reason was honorable for a young man in his prime, especially if he was from a noble family with enough influence to live comfortably in the capital. The man in front of him must have disappeared from the scene before 2 years had passed. Knowing that, there was nothing to worry about. Even if he turns out to be alive in the future, it doesn't matter. Who am I? The Knights of the Three Lilies laughed incredibly, glancing as if Yuder's expression was absurd. His bright brown hair, almost golden, was neatly combed back, and his smooth face was handsome enough to be considered aristocratic anywhere. But in Yuder's eyes, the man was nothing more than a young fool without discernment. Kiloli de Darcia. Have you ever heard of the Duke of Darcia? Or Diarca? Diarca? Something like that. Kiloli of Diarca. Have you ever heard of the Duke of Diarca, commoner? So yeah, remain the... I have a feeling he's gonna... So this is pretty much up to where I caught up to where I've left off. So yeah, Kiloli, I don't know how to pronounce these names. I am so sorry. So Kiolia. Anyways, the empire had a total of 5 ducal families. Most of these families were prestigious and had been around since the founding of the empire. The founder of these ducal families were mostly the children of the first emperor. When Evenar Laor, the first emperor's eldest son, ascended to his throne, the remaining four seemingly each received a duchy and became dukes. Kishair, who held the Duke of Paletta, was a very rare case. It was extremely uncommon for someone who inherited the title of Duke within the empire to bear the surname Laor. I wonder, because why if Kishair, who is the half brother of the emperor, why is he not considered the crown prince? Because wouldn't he be like next in line? So why? There was only one reason. I guess they tell us there was only one reason this would be possible, because Kishair's father, the previous emperor, had personally granted him a new ducal title while he was still alive. Why? According to imperial law, a prince who received a ducal title would be stripped of their succession rights. Oh, that's fine. And could never vie for the emperor's position. But why? This precedent had been followed since the first emperor and was a good system for preventing bloody power struggles among siblings. That makes sense. However, such a conferred ducal titles were often temporary, and the recipients did not receive proper territories. Most of the dukes had no power, and for various reasons, they remained unmarried until they died. They quietly bowed their heads and lived in the corners of their territories until they disappeared from history. Oh, that's sad. The nobles believed that there must have been a significant problem with Kishair Laor, even if they didn't know what it was. Rumors circulated that he was outwardly fine, but impotent and of low intelligence. I'm sorry, I don't think any of that is true. He seems very smart, and I have a feeling he's not impotent. Kishair did not deny any of these rumors and enjoyed playing them along with them. Yeah, he seems to be tired. Like, oh, yeah, I totally cannot get it up. I totally cannot spread my seeds. 2 plus 2, 15, of course. He was famous for his love affairs. Yep, there you go. Since his days as a prince. But I wonder if he's actually the player. Maybe he just plays it off. Like, just let us speak because they don't know me. I have a feeling he's actually a very loyal person. But there was not a single person who claimed to have had his child there, so the rumors were treated almost as a fact. The emperor's... Let's change it. The emperor's leniency towards his younger brother, Kishair, was also believed because of this. It was as though it was thought that he simply indulged towards his only full-blooded sibling. They're full-blooded, but he's half-sibling. Wait, this doesn't make sense. Towards his only full-blooded sibling. I thought they were half-brothers. So if they were half-brothers, how can they be full-blooded? It's confusing. Who had not caused any significant accidents. So when Kishair first revealed his abilities and founded the cavalry unit and became its leader, some people believe he was just a playful duke who had awakened his powers and wanted to play as commander for a while. It didn't take long for this misconception to be shattered. Even if it appeared to be the first meaningful awakener group, founded by the duke from the imperial family, it wasn't as beautiful from the inside. Nevertheless, the fact that Kishair, bearing the name of Laor, could take charge of the military group without causing any significant disruption, despite the image of challenging the emperor's authority, meant there was a hidden power structure that ordinary people could not see. Yuder only learned of this fact after becoming the commander. There might have been more circumstances he didn't know about, but those he could not be known with both Kishair and the previous emperor dead. Thus, Yuder became even more curious about the real reason Kishair had founded this organization. He knew that Kishair was neither as foolish nor as impotent as some people claim. Was the noble reason Kishair or had mentioned really true? Was that all there is? Was that all there was to it? Oh, we're back to. You seem to be so surprised upon hearing my name that you can't even speak. Yuder had been in deep thought and snapped back to reality at the sound of not. I thought I really. Here we go. Yuder had been deep in thought. Snapped back to reality of sound of Keoli de Darcia's chuckling. Darcia's. The Darkia ducal house was related by blood to the crown prince, who had become the next emperor. So it was understandable that the young knight from that family would be quite arrogant upon hearing Kishair's name. However, the question was why someone with such background had disappeared without a trace in the past. It was evident that he wasn't a successor. Whoa, good lord, what the hell's going on? This is... Man, I don't understand why my thing keeps changing color. It was evident that he wasn't a successor of the ducal house as he joined the Order of Knights. Among the 4 ducal houses, there wasn't a single one that focused on martial arts. So they preferred to make their children chancellors or priests rather than sending them to be knights. Yet, despite this, he had become a knight, which meant he must not have been significant in his family. Ooh, he's like, yeah, he's worthless. He's a nobody. It seemed that his position had more to do with his family name rather than any real skills, since his inner power didn't appear to be exceptional. Yeah, he's like, yeah, he's a nobody. He's a weakling. He's a nepo baby. That's all he is. He probably lived like that, accumulated resentment, and was assassinated. Yeah, he's like, yeah, he just pissed off too many people, and they offed him. Yuder thought about this eerie notion quite casually as he opened his mouth. The Darkia ducal house. Of course, I've heard of it. I thought so. Now step back accordingly. This is not a place for people like you. That won't be possible. What? Keoli's cold face contorted. Are you daring to defy my orders? Should I drag him out now? One of Keoli's subordinates asked, unable to conceal his displeasure. Our commander instructed us to come here for training. Do you think you can proceed with such a matter without consulting the commander of the Imperial Knights? Yuder implied that if the commander of the Imperial Knights had already given permission, there was no reason for Keoli to intervene. Seemingly understanding the meaning, Keoli's eyes reddened with anger. Yuder thought he would order his subordinates to chase him away, but Keoli proved to be more immature than Yuder had anticipated. The young knight immediately drew his sword and aimed it at Yuder's throat. Come out! If you're one of those bastards who are overconfident in their power, I'll make sure you know your place today. Yuder! From behind, Gacne rushed forward, trying to block Yuder's path. I've heard from the Imperial Knights don't draw their swords for no reason. Escalating this won't be good for you either. You're all so careless with your words. Kelly aimed sword didn't waver. Yuder grabbed Cockney's shoulder and tried to step forward in defense. Cockney, it's fine. Step back. Yuder, are you surely you're not? The cavalry members are not much different from the Imperial Knights in terms of legal status. If both parties agree, a duel is acceptable. A duel between a commoner and a noble was not normally possible. However, the situation was unique. As Yuder quietly pointed this out, the cavalry members, who were standing behind him, opened their mouths in unison. Gachne's expression was the same. There's no way it's alright. Yuder, even so, it's alright. Yuder spoke with certainty. Upon hearing his resolute voice, the strength momentarily drained from Gachne's green eyes. Yuder tilted his head as he stepped aside. It's perfect, since we're in the training grounds. I accept your duel. However, I don't have a weapon, so you'll need to provide me with a sword. Ha! Flame sparked in Killy's eyes. I have truly never met such an insolent fellow in my life. Congratulations! You may be curious about the name of the commoner. What is your name? Didn't he just hear? Yuder suddenly hid his intelligence and opened his mouth. Yuder's just like, God, this guy's an idiot. It's Yuder. Good. You, give your sword to that man. But my sword's a family treasure passed down from my father. As Killy gestured and spoke to the one of the servants standing behind him, the servant made a grimace and lowered his head. The sight was so amusing and laughter broke out momentarily among the cavalry, forgetting the serious situation they're in. What on earth is he? He's not even a 5-year-old kid. Even the kids in our village wouldn't play like that. Give me yours? No. Whoa! Who's babbling nonsense now? As Gilly thundered shout, the cavalry members fell silent. However, once the mood had changed, it could not be reversed, even with his shouting. Even the Imperial Knights, who had surrounded him with the intention of watching the cavalry take a hit, couldn't hide their smiles. Even the cavalry was like, this is funny. They mostly saw Gilly as someone who strutted around relying on the power of his family. He's like a peacock. Well, no, peacock's not. He's like a rooster, in a sense. Just, look at me. Gilly, noticing this, turned redder. He turned around and slapped the servant's cheek. You who dared to tarnish the honor of your master. Leave the group immediately. Go back and pack your things right away. No. I will give you my sword, Lord Gilly. I don't need it. Didn't you hear me tell you to leave? Or shall I kill you right here? As Gilly's sword pointed towards his throat, the servant fell to the ground, screaming, I made a mistake! Most of Gilly's servants seemed to be in their mid-teens. They knew how to use the sword to some extent, but they were still young. To wield a sword so recklessly against a child, Yuder thought about such a personality and became more confident in his speculations that Gilly had probably been assassinated by someone he had offended in the past. Annoying brat. Yuder raised his hand and swung it slightly. Then, as if it were caught by an invisible hand, the sword Gilly was holding stopped and twisted towards Yuder. What? Lord Gilly! Fortunately, Gilly didn't loosen his grip. However, he couldn't withstand the force of the sword moving its own and fell forward. He face planted. Dust rose over the splendid training grounds, where the eagle's pattern had been engraved with the white powder of the tightly packed soil. Everyone was in shock. Gilly himself, his subordinate knights, and the others surrounding them were also shocked they couldn't say anything. The only one not surprised here was Yuder himself. God, Yuder just made him the face plant. Okay, we got time. I think we need some silliness going on. Hold on. We're going with silly. But magic have used. It's not magic, it's my power. His handsome face was no longer attractive, covered in dirt. Yuder explained kindly to Kuoli. He was looking at him without even considering fixing his disheveled-haired. Everything pure that comes from nature follows me. This includes the sword of the night, made by refining iron from nature with fire. It means it follows me, not you. He moved his hand once again, and Kuoli's sword seemed to rise into the air before settling back down. Kuoli's eyes widened as if he was seeing a ghost enter his sword. That's impossible! There's more impossible things I can do. Yuder flicked his finger again, and flames burst all over Kuoli's grip. Lord Kuoli! Kuoli couldn't withstand the heat of the rising flames and dropped his sword. Beautiful flames flickered and danced over the fallen blade before disappearing. However, since it hadn't actually burned or charred, there was no trace left on the blade or handle. Kuoli, who had disgracefully discarded his sword, which was as precious as a nice life, in front of everyone, and was covered in dirt and dust, was gasping in air to blue. Oh, let me read that again. Oh, let me take a drink and read that, because I just stumbled so much over that. Kuoli, who had disgracefully discarded his sword, which was as precious as his knight's life, in front of everyone, was covered in dust. Okay. Was gasping for air in disbelief. Yuder sighed softly, seeing him glaring at him with bloodshot eyes. If he attacks to kill, it might be a bit of a headache. I only meant to break his arrogance a bit. Why didn't you go into Soul Division? One of the cavalry members gathered behind him asked curiously. As Yuder turned his head to answer, someone else answered before him. There's no need to limit options if it can. There's no need to limit the options if one can do both. Commander! Kishair had been staying behind the cavalry members unnoticed. The knight, who hadn't realized he had come because of the unprecedented surprise situation, alternated between surprised look at the entrance and Kishair. Not noticing the tall duke, who stood a head taller than the other members with his remarkable appearance, walking in was almost a disgrace to the Imperial Knights. Sensing a presence was part of the training all knights honed from childhood. I see you've been having quite some fun while I was talking to Theo. Kishair slowly walked forward in front of the cavalry, his red eyes looking at the falling Kuoli de Darcia, his abandoned sword, and Yuder's face. Alright, let's change the music. Yuder felt a slight unease, looking at the smile on Kishair's face, and looked at him. Yuder? Yes. Commander. Yuder only stepped in for us. When Kishair called Yuder's name, Ever shouted from behind him. The other members, who had been holding their breath, also began to raise their voices one by one in agreement with her. That's right. They were the ones who disrespected. That's right. They were the ones who disrespected us and told us to leave first. They refused to listen even when we said we needed to train. I didn't call Yuder to scold them. It's not bad to see camaraderie forming already. Let's avoid misunderstanding. When Kishair spoke with a chuckle, everyone who had stepped forward blushed. I'm sorry. Forgive generously. Now, Yuder, why didn't you wait for me before you acted? You already snapped your opponent's will, haven't you? There's nothing left for me to handle. He's like, I missed out. You should have waited. I would have done more. I could have played too. Why didn't you let me join in? Kishair, with an exaggerated wink, asked Yuder in a teasing voice. His question was not meant to chastise or reprimand him. Rather, he was implying the opposite. Shock spread through the knights like a shiver. Even Kuoli stared at Kishair as though he had been struck in the head. Just as my unit said, why do others need to interfere in the matter? Just as my unit said, why do others need to interfere in the matter I have concluded with Theo? Theo understood all circumstances generously. If you have any complaints, relay them directly to your commander. Kishair casually referred to the commander of the Imperial Knights, Theo, as if he were an acquaintance. However, the knights could not believe that the respected commander had willingly conceded to the crucial training ground. Why on earth would Commander allow such a thing? This place is reserved for the knights. Why should our training be reduced for those men? What kind of place is... One of the knights could not hold back his outcry. A gleam of amusement lit up in Kishair's eyes. Is that so? Then you can train here as well. There's no shortage of land. Feel free to use any area you want. Just then, he lowered his voice, which captured everyone's attention incredulously. Kishair's gaze directly at the knight who had yelled at him, a smile playing his lip. However, there will be no compensation for any potential catastrophes. Oh? Okay, but I'm still streaming, so I got OBS, it disconnected and reconnected. So I was double checking. So I guess I kind of cut out for a minute? I don't know. Huh. Alright. However, there will be no compensation for potential catastrophes that may occur during training. They occur during official training hours. Whether the sword burns, the earth turns over, or trees shatter, a courageous member of the Imperial Knights should be able to handle it all, right? ... The knight's face hardened with a mixture of assault and terror. We're about to start training soon. Those who are confident, stay here. If not, you may leave. After a moment of silence, the Imperial Knights retreated. Yuder saw Kuoli, who had been glaring at him, push off the sport of a comrade and stand on his own. I will remember you. But as soon as Kuoli picked up his sword and disappeared, Yuder quickly forgot about him. He's like, I don't really care about this guy. Who is he? What's the point of remembering someone who will soon be gone? Yuder, are you okay? As the knights vanished, the cavalry members who had retreated to the back all rushed to Yuder at once. They were as upset about what had happened to Yuder as if it had happened to them, cursing the knights and feeling a stronger camaraderie than before. Yuder, you were amazing. I should have stepped in more. I'm sorry. Oh, this is Gakne. Yuder, you were amazing. I should have stepped in more. I'm sorry. Yuder patted the back of Gakane. He was holding his mouth shut like a beaten dog. It's okay. But still, I don't deserve to be your friend. I'm really ashamed. It's okay, really. Even if Gakane had stepped in, it wouldn't have been much of a difference. But the fact that he had stepped in at all was a miracle in itself. It was the first time someone had stepped forward for Yuder. I always thought you were a bit of a downer because you never talked, but I see you in a new light. When Gagne stepped back, another member who had been behind him gave him a thumbs up with a smile. I guess I'll have to change today's train. Content slightly. Learning to wield a sword is important, but understanding your abilities is even more so. This is the only training ground in the area that's shielded by protective magic, so you don't have to hold back. The protective sigil etched here by the Archmage S still breathes. Feel free to participate. Only then did you understand why Kishair had chosen this place for training. They followed Kishair's instruction, revealing the true abilities to each other, and trained to regulate their powers by comparing their maximum and minimum output. Yuder succeeded without much difficulty, but among the members, there were more than those who were awakened because the training was not as they had anticipated. Our power is unprecedented. In other words, our power is unprecedented. In other words, the more you know about yourself, the more it becomes your asset. Keep that in mind. When conducting the training, Kishair replaces usual languid smile with a clear and firm tone. Oh. As someone swung a massively transformed hand into the ground, the whole area shook with a thunderous noise. Yet the fact that protective magic was cast proved true, as the impact didn't reach the buildings outside the training ground. Yuder, come to my quarters for a moment after all the training is over. Before training ended, Kishair had come closer, under the pretext of checking Yuder's progress, and left him with instruction in a voice so soft that no one else could hear. Yuder looked at him and slightly nodded his head. Alright, let's change the music. I wonder why he called me. Is it about the novice night matter? After all the training was over and he had bathed, Yuder climbed the stairs alone. As much as he thought about it, the only reason he guessed for Kishair to secretly called him was that an unprecedented event. Can't guess. Yuder's reality had changed since he chose the Shin division. Things that hadn't happened before were increasing, and occasionally the future information he had become useless. It was the same now. He knocked twice on the lion's headed door knocker in front of the top floor where Kishair would be staying. The door opened immediately, and the person inside poked his head out. Welcome. Are you the one that was supposed to visit tonight? ... It was a familiar face because he had seen it before. But it was the first time he met him now. Yuder nodded his head towards the handsome man with an icy expression. The Duke has gone out for a brief errand. He'll be back soon, so please have a seat in the meantime. His body, accustomed to wielding a sword for a long time, was full of thin scars over strong muscles. The man with a distinctive light red skin on the southern country guided Yuder to a table with an emotionless expression and offered him a teacup that seemed to have been prepared in advance. The beautiful porcelain teacup looked ironic in his large hand. Please, have some. ... After finishing his task, he generally retreated Oh, he quietly retreated to the bookshelf and stood. It seemed like he was just standing, but it was a position where he could perceive anything in the room at a glance. Is this what they called a swordmaster? You felt a subtle admiration for him. He was none other than Nathan Zuckerman, the hidden swordmaster who served as an adjutant for following Kishair. He had heard that he was not from the Empire, but somewhere in the southern countries, but he had forgotten. He blindly followed only Kishair, and after Kishair's death, he disappeared as if he had never existed and never reappeared. Alright. We'll do one more, and then we'll probably pause. So, we'll switch over to the next thing. Chapter 16. Externally, Nathan Zuckerman was merely an adjutant who was somewhat adept at swordplay, not a swordmaster. However, the truth was that he possessed skills tremendous enough to rival even the Awakeners, a fact that had greatly surprised many. Unlike the superficially dazzling knights he had met during the day, he could feel a profound aura emanating from Nathan Zuckerman. Born of the mana he had consistently refined and accumulated over a long period of time, the quality was comparable to the exceptional mages that Yuder had once faced. For a mage, the amount of mana stored in his body was important, but for a swordmaster, the quality mattered more than its quality. Infusing a sword with mana was much more difficult than casting spells, so only the most meticulous, purified mana barely provided the sword with adequate power. The fact that he had massed mana equivalent to a mage implied that Nathan Zuckerman was extraordinarily skilled. I didn't realize back then, meeting him much later, he was remarkable from the start. This realization was made possible by Yuder's heightened sensitivity to others' energy, a sense that had grown incomparably more developed than it had been in the past. While the abilities he could use hadn't changed much from 13 years ago, this perception seemed to have been etched into his soul, unfaded even by the passage of time. Perhaps it was more akin to the tricks he had learned encountering numerous strong individuals over the years rather than an innate power. You did not drink the tea Nathan had offered. I am appalled. Yuder, how could you refuse tea? Well, he's probably used to people like trying to poison him, to be honest. So it's probably habit. Instead, surveying the room. The room appearance hadn't changed much from before. The divine sword on the transparent sword stand atop the here was still there. It's still emitting an uncomfortable energy. You tried to ignore the divine sword that seemed to be reaching out to him with this energy. Oh, you've arrived before me. My apologies. A few minutes later, Kishair returned. Nathan, who had opened the door for him, solemnly took his coat from his shoulders and received his gloves to tidy up. A duke had his adjutant take care of everything, not even a single servant at his beck and call. It was strange indeed, but Yuder, knowing from his past experiences that Kishair had always behaved this way, said nothing. Chamomile tea. It's in season now. Nathan's tea brewing skills are excellent. You can drink it without worry. Surely you don't think he would poison it? No, I don't. It's a joke. As Kishair sat down in front of Yuder, a fragrant scent wafted into his nostrils. He initially thought it was the scent of expensive soap used for bathing, but then he detected the lingering scent of strong perfume. Yuder stiffened his shoulders momentarily before relaxing them and turning his gaze towards Kishair. The ends of Kishair's golden hair were slightly damp. You appear to have taken a bath. Huh? Ah, yes indeed. You were a servant. Kishair brushed his hair with a smile. However, Yuder did not smile back. Ooh, Yuder, are you kind of jealous? He's probably thinking that Kishair probably was hanky-pankying with someone and took a quick bath afterwards. Get the hanky-panky smell off. It's the perfume that was popular among noblewomen. There's no mistake. What could be the reason for someone to have persistent smell of perfume on the body, even after bathing? Who had Kishair met, and what had been doing? Yuder had a rough idea. He always was quite the playboy. Even though Kishair's reputation was exactly stellar, he had always been popular. His godlike physique and stunning looks had always been coveted by many. He was famous for never refusing the temptations that poured his way. In memories of the past, it seemed as though he had lived quietly after becoming the commander, but that was apparently wasn't the case. Well, it wasn't for Yuder to know. He merely thought of abstaining from such dangerous schemes, perfect for being met with the wrong end of the blade, would help maintain Kishair's reputation. I'm curious why you called me. Oh, I'm curious why you called me. Ah, yes. I wanted to talk to you about what happened today. Kishair swallowed the heat he had been savoring in his mouth. Fortunately, this time ended because I arrived just in time, but it could have been otherwise. Or I might have not have taken sides. Why did you act so recklessly? I thought you were far from being impulsive. Dot. Kyole Darcia is stubbornly persistent, which could become annoying. He has a very high sense of nobility. Who was Kyole Darcia again? He truly forgot who he was. He's like, oh, thank you for the sip. I'll hydrate. Yeah, he totally, like, I ain't gonna remember this guy. And he totally, like, within a couple hours, like, who is this guy again? Who is he talking about? Oh, right. After a few seconds, Yuder finally remembered that it was the name of the knight he had clashed with earlier in the day. He decided to remember only what he had done with the fledgling knight, and forget the rest. It had indeed completely disappeared from his memory. It meant that his brain didn't feel the need to remember it. I acted thinking that such a situation could not arise. It's fine. It wouldn't arise? I acted thinking that such a situation would not arise. It's fine. It wouldn't arise? Kishair asked back with an intrigued expression. What do you mean by that? I'm stronger. Even if they gathered everyone by their side, there were many from my side who possessed enough power to overcome them. That's enough to handle whatever happens. So you weren't stalling for time waiting for me to arrive. You just believed that you were much stronger. Yes. Interesting. Kishair broke out laughing. So, how do you plan to deal with So, how do you plan to deal with Kyole Darcia's grudge? He's already pressured his family to punish you. Is it troublesome? Instead of answering, Yuder asked back, "Oh, so how do this is I got reversed. So how do you plan to deal with Theodosia's grudge? He's so no, maybe not. Is it troublesome?" Instead of answering, Yuder asked back, "If it's troublesome, you can dismiss me." Dot dot dot. Kishair's smile deepened. He leaned his face on the hand resting on the armrest of his chair. His red eyes shone through his golden hair. "You just made into a cavalry unit, and you're saying you have no regrets?" Dot dot dot. As long as Yuda's future didn't flow the same as his past, he didn't care. Being expelled from here didn't mean there was no way forward. In fact, if he left, it might increase the chance of Kishair remaining as cavalry commander. Considering that, it was a bad outcome. "I thought I'd scare you a bit, but it's been a while since I met someone who doesn't get scared. Have you always been this fearless?" It seems so. As Yuder recalled, he had received a similar compliment from Kishair before. "Yuder, you're too fearless, and that's the problem. But that's why No." Yuder closed his eyes. Oh. Uh, Yuder closed his eyes, letting a useless memory from the past wash away. No, that future would not come. There was no need to recall it since it would not make there was no need to recall it since he would make sure it didn't come to pass. Why did you suddenly become so serious? It's as if I asked something I shouldn't have. No, it's nothing. Even if they hold a grudge against me, it doesn't matter. I'll make sure to avoid any damage to the cavalry." Haha. "Nathan, did you hear what he said? He'll sort it out himself." Kishair burst into laughter again. "A commoner orphan claims he can be a great Duke family whose lineage spans 1,000 years. It's really entertaining." Dot dot dot. Nathan's ice blue eyes met Yuder's face, then quickly averted. "I'm curious why you think your power is so extraordinary. From what I've seen, you're impressive. But I'm not sure it's enough to warrant such confidence. Do you think you can beat me too?" Against Kishair Laor, it was a dangerous conversation, one that could evoke a change of treason if overheard. But Yuder focused solely on the meaning of the conversation. Could Yuder, as he was now, defeat Kishair if they fought? The abilities of Kishair that Yuder had seen in the past were mostly physical. Even just one of his skills seemed extraordinary, appearing to be paired with a high level of magical defense. It wouldn't be easy to fight him directly. Besides, he was not even at full power. He is the only opponent I have never seen at full strength. Nevertheless, Yuder was probably the only one who knew that Kishair's abilities. Nevertheless, Yuder was probably the only one who knew about Kishair's abilities to an extent. It was possible because he had accompanied him during his time as deputy commander. Kishair was a leader who primarily analyzed situations and placed capable people at the right places during incidents, rarely stepping forward himself. It was the exact opposite of Yuder, who would always step in before his subordinates whenever something happened. I've seen him use one or two abilities once, but never all at once. I've only heard about him using the Divine Sword, never seen it. The fact that Kishair had owned the Divine Sword became known during the mission to retrieve the Red Stone, but Yuder hadn't accompanied him then, and didn't know the details. Those who had been there were ordered to keep their mouths shut about what had happened. What Yuder heard later was that Kishair had drawn the divine sword for the first time to urgently deal with the enemy's surprise attack, and the situation resolved instantly. As far as Yuder knew, that was the first and last time Kishair had used his divine sword. What if Kishair what if Kishair were to use all his abilities while also wielding the divine sword? I don't know how the power of the divine sword is manifested, but it probably makes it easier to use his existing abilities. Kishair didn't directly show his abilities even during training, preferring to participate in a teaching role. Imagining unknown abilities had its limits. I'm not sure. I don't fully understand your abilities, Commander. Alright, so that is it for chapter 16. We'll probably, today's Friday. So next time we'll come back to this is, I'll pause that, will be on Sunday, but there'll be a during the second half. So for YouTube purposes, please like, comment, and subscribe. And come join me on Twitch, where I'm reading this live and playing games live. That is Sappy778 at twitchtv.com. Again, that's SAPPHIE778 at twitchtv.com. I would love to have you there. Bye bye.